Firstly, thank you for coming. In this room, we have representatives, I believe, of the ambassadors to the UK from over 40 countries. And we're on a mission. Today, we're on a bit of a mission. And our mission is to plan the agenda for the London Design Biennale in 2020. We need to define what we as a global community of designers want to say right now. What is our message? When the future looks back on the designers of 2020, what will they see? What will they see that we were designing? What were we making at this time? This is an opportunity for designers to contribute to the urgent and radical shifts in every aspect of design that we are all aware need to take place in order for our species to have a chance of survival on this planet. My background, as Will said, is in large-scale sculptural storytelling, in theatre, in opera, and in pop concerts, often communicating ideas very directly through images and music to large crowds, often of over 100,000 people in arena and stadia. And one thing I've learned is that people do not forget things that amaze them. They don't forget the music, they don't forget the images. If we want people to remember our words and our ideas, and if we want to play a part in shifting people's perspectives, we should not be preaching to people at the London Design Biennale 2020. We will need to amaze them with what we make. The Biennale itself will take place in September 2020, which will be a critical time in the lead up to November 2020. It's looking almost certain that global leaders will gather in London in November 2020 for the UN Climate Change Conference. What an extraordinary opportunity for this city. The presentations and conversations over the course of today have been put together with the aim of inspiring you, the curators, designers, thinkers, as you start to consider and conceive the work that you'll create and exhibit at Somerset House next year. To design literally means to leave a mark. In a sense, we're all designers because we all leave our mark. Our theme is resonance because what we design and make resonates for better and for worse, whether in our physical and digital environments or in the systems that shape our lives. What we design, the marks that we make, endure, as we know, long beyond our own lifespans. And anyone who is a designer is also a thinker, a researcher, a listener. Designers do not design in a vacuum. We tune in. We pick up signals. We are alive to the resonance of the physical and digital objects and systems around us. So we approach the theme of resonance from both sides, as agents of the actions that resonate and as receivers of actions that have already resonated. As designers, we're always working at the junction between what we receive, hear, see, intuit, and what we then decide we will make next. And before going further into the definition of resonance and how it might manifest in our shared collective agenda here for the Biennale, I want to start with a definition of the word design. Because our definition of design for the purposes of this room is very broad. Design is involved in everything. Our products and their packaging, our homes and their heating and cooling, our interiors and exteriors, our kitchens and bathrooms, our architecture, our museums and galleries, our parks, playgrounds and public spaces, our rubbish dumps, our prisons and police stations, our churches, schools and hospitals, our cars, trains, planes, and the coal mines and oil drills, and the solar panels, and the wind turbines, and the nuclear reactors that power them, our guns, our bombs, our maps, our borders, our trade routes, our economic systems, our shops, our markets, our financial systems, our systems of supply and demand, our political systems, our voting systems, our systems of taxation, agriculture, engineering, education, eating, drinking, cleaning, washing, traveling, transport, our systems of waste, of sewage, of landfill, of import and export of trash. All of these are designed by designers. And our attitudes are also designed, our opinions, our worldviews, Our voting intentions are shaped by the images that we see and the words that we read, which are themselves determined by what reaches us. Our press, our advertising, our algorithms, our inboxes, our news feeds, our homepages, our digital networks. And how we perceive much of what is designed depends on how it's communicated. Our films, our TV programs, our graphic design, our posters, our adverts, our fonts and illustrations, our graphs and diagrams. And once we tune in to the idea that everything is designed and everything we design resonates, we begin to take responsibility for what we resonate when we design. And we start to ask ourselves this question of every design we produce. How do we want this thing we're working on, how do we want it to resonate in the world? What world do we therefore want to live in? How do we want to live? Who do we want to be? And do we as a species actually want to continue to exist? So let's start with the physical resonance of each physical object we design, whether it's a teacup or a museum or a handbag or a toothbrush or a smartphone or a beer bottle. How long will it last? How long should it last? In our design process, we start to take account of the full lifespan of the objects that we conceive. We start to design each physical object's unmaking and remaking, as well as its making. We start to account for its endurance, its physical resonance in our earth, in our oceans, and in the bellies of our marine animals. We start to refuse to design obsolescence into our handheld devices, and instead design them to be carefully maintained and upgraded and repaired so that they might last for a lifetime. And they might get passed down through generations as watches used to be passed down as heirlooms. We start to design compostability rather than infinite longevity into our packaging. And we elect to design clothes made from upcycling existing garments. And we start to ask questions about the provenance and sustainability of every material that we choose to incorporate into our designs. Designers all over the planet are already urgently developing innovative design solutions to every aspect of our lives that needs to be rethought. In his perspective-shifting book, Drawdown, Paul Hawken and his team have researched and modeled the 100 most substantive ways that we can reverse global warming. He illustrates in detail how redesigned thinking is being applied to energy, transport, cities, industries, education, forests, and agriculture, just to name a few. The book illuminates ways that we can overcome the fear, the confusion, and apathy surrounding climate change and take action ourselves as individuals, as companies, as communities, towns, and cities. It makes for empowering and sometimes surprising reading, along with the increasing of the proportion of energy generated by wind turbines and solar farms, and along with rethinking refrigeration. The top solutions include reducing food waste, reducing meat consumption, and educating girls and women. These are in the top 6. These are profoundly engaging invitations to redesign our attitudes to food and waste and to rethink our attitudes to educating women and girls globally, because the future of our species depends on it. Hawken proposes that slowing down or arresting global warming is insufficiently ambitious as a goal. He's inviting us to aim for drawdown, which is the technical term for the moment at which global warming starts to go into reverse. Above all, Hawken advocates a shift in perspective on the climate crisis. He writes, unquestionably, distress signals are flashing throughout nature and society, from drought, sea level rise, and unrelenting increases in temperatures to expanded refugee crises, conflict, and dislocation. But this is not the whole story. Many people are staunchly and unwaveringly on the case. Although carbon emissions from fossil fuel combustion and land use have a 2-century head start on these solutions, we will take these odds. The buildup of greenhouse gases that we experience today occurred in the absence of human understanding. Our ancestors were innocent of the damage that they were doing. That can tempt us to believe that global warming is something that's happening to us, that we are victims of a fate that was determined by actions that precede us. If we change the preposition and consider that global warming is happening not to us, but for us, an atmospheric transformation that inspires us to change and reimagine and redesign everything we do. We begin to live in a different world. We begin to take 100% responsibility, and we stop blaming others. We see global warming not as an inevitability, but as an invitation to build, innovate, and effect change, a pathway that awakens creativity, compassion, and genius. And Hawken is joined by an ever-expanding mass of voices who are seeing with clarity that the planet itself is resonating with an invitation for us to redesign the systems that are inherently unsustainable from a human perspective, even if the planet weren't increasing in temperature at unprecedented levels. In Extinction Rebellion's urgent, brilliant, and already best-selling book, Caroline Lucas, leader of the Green Party UK, writes, if we are to have any serious chance of implementing the radical policies needed to tackle climate crisis, we must apply the same boldness and urgency to transforming our political system. We need to redesign our economy so that it gives everyone a role in revitalizing our society and tackling climate breakdown. Farhana Yamin, leading environmental lawyer and climate change development policy expert, writes, we can and now must redesign human societies based on love, justice, and planetary boundaries, so that no person or society is left to face devastating consequences, and we learn to restore nature together. The school climate activist Greta Thunberg's message is, if solutions within the system are so impossible to find, maybe we should change and redesign the system itself. Shoshana Zuboff, in her profound work, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, which I know is being read studiously here at Google, writes, only we, the people, can mobilize new forms of collaborative action, the crucial friction that reasserts the primacy of a flourishing human future as the foundation of our information civilization. If the digital future is to be our home, then it is we, this room, all of us, this building, who must make it so. In the words of Buckminster Fuller, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. The search engine Ecosia invests 80% of its advertising revenue in planting trees. So far, 52 million trees have been planted, with the aim of planting 1 billion by 2020. The extraordinary economist Kate Raworth writes, inequality in the world is not accidental. It's an example of design failure. Today we have economies that need to grow whether or not they make us thrive. What we need are economies that make us thrive whether or not they need to grow. We must now have the grandest of ambitions, economic transformation. Because we've inherited economies that are degenerative, divisive, and addicted to growth, and we urgently need to transform them into economies that are regenerative, distributive, and able to thrive beyond growth. It's no less than the redesign challenge of our times.